2016 Alfa Romeo 4C Spider review. I'm standing at the edge of a cliff in a scenic overlook, looking out over the endless blue of Lake Michigan. Beneath me, swimmers and sunbathers fight to keep cool on the hot beach. It's humid and hot and my clothes are sticking to me. The fresh breezes from the lake that usually keep the air clear and comfortable are absent. The air is stagnant and hazy. I'm sunburned and tired and overstimulated by the wind, the sun, and the sounds of the last 2 days, the rush of wind, the scream of pistons, the loud wail of the exhaust, the thrum of tires on blacktop, the deep burble of an idling engine. I'm fatigued, and fatigue leads to mistakes, so I've pulled off my route and followed a narrow, winding road that climbs a few hundred feet through the trees above Lake Michigan to take a break. To my left and right are other people sitting in parked cars, taking in the view as well, though the cars to my immediate left and right have stopped looking at the lake and are instead leaning out their windows, checking out my car. It's the 2016 Alfa Romeo 4C Spider. A tiny wisp of a sports car infused with so much racing engineering, you wonder how Alfa Romeo can sell it for the price it does. It's a beautiful pearl white, bianco madrepola as the Italians say, with red leather seats. It is, in a word, magnificent. The other sightseers seem to agree. They've completely forgotten about the lake and the view, and their eyes are busy absorbing every flowing line of the car's body, taking it all in before it disappears, something the car does rather well on the open road. I'm looking at the car again too. I don't tire of looking at it. From the tri-lobe intake and the traditional Alfa Romeo grille at the front, along the sweeping fenders that disappear into the sharp side intakes beneath the buttresses, across the short tail of the car to the small ducktail spoiler, there are no bad lines and it never gets old. The pearl white really highlights the lines of the car. The red leather headrests of the seats are visible and the combination looks classic, perfect. Dark anthracite gray wheels and thin Pirelli P0 tires fill the wheel wells. The windshield surround is carbon fiber. It's a short car, a small car, but it's so attractive. Similar in shape and size to Lotus Elise. I glance over at a couple gazing upon it from their car. The woman sees me looking at her and takes the opportunity to ask, "What is it?" "An Alfa Romeo," I reply. "Their new 4C sports car." "Alfa Romeo?" "Romeo. They're from Italy. They haven't sold cars in the US since the early 90s. This is the first production car available in the United States since then." "Oh. I've never heard of them before. Beautiful car." I'm surprised how many times I've heard this response over the last 3 days, and it still surprises me. So many people have never heard of Alfa Romeo. How is this possible? I grew up familiar with the name, though less familiar with their cars. I knew of the Spider Veloce, renamed the Spider Graduate in the US after it received some prominent screen time in the 1967 film The Graduate. I'd hung out at the local road course as a teen when the local Alfa Romeo club was running and watched the usual mix of Spiders, 164 sedans, and some older coupes from the 60s. They were moderately interesting cars but not beautiful or striking. In the US, the nameplate had some panache, but there wasn't much to back it up other than a storied history of racing and some pretty but not entirely impressive products. However, the 4C has completely and unalterably changed my opinion about Alfa Romeo. If this is a hint at product to come, I'm very excited to have Alfa Romeo back in the US. I had started the previous day giving rides to a few people who were interested. Friends and family mostly. After each ride, photos were texted and posted on Facebook, and I started getting more calls and texts from other friends and family. It quickly snowballed and I ended up spending 12 full hours demonstrating the car before finally getting home at 10 p.m., tired, sunburned, and on edge. My nerves buzzing from the adrenaline and the excitement that came from driving it. Today was just about me and the car though, driving it, pushing it, getting a good impression of it, and getting some photographs of it. I wanted to really push the car, touring it out on good roads and see how it would do. A track would have been ideal, but I hadn't planned ahead far enough, so I defaulted to my favorite driving road in all of Lower Michigan. I would run in 22. It's a scenic rural highway that runs up the beautiful shoreline of Lake Michigan from Manistee, Michigan to Northport, Michigan, passing through small summer resort towns that cater to vacationers from several states, Sleeping Bear Dunes National Lake Shore, and the thick forests of northern Michigan. The road, established at the advent of motoring, rises and falls hundreds of feet with the now forested sand dune bluffs, weaves between dozens of lakes, orchards, and farm stands, and cuts through miles of shady forest land, providing the curves and elevation changes that every driver seeks in a fun road. It's heavily traveled by vacationers seeking to escape the cities and get back out into nature. In the last decade or so, its popularity has soared, and many vehicles on Michigan roads today carry the ubiquitous decal of the M22 route sign. I have been on the road for about 4 hours by this point, and, despite my fatigue from the day before, I'm itching to get back in and drive some more. I'm anxious, nervous like a junkie. I can't relax. I need another hit. Jealous eyes watch me as I walk back to the car and open the lightweight door. Inside is one of the prettiest interiors I have ever seen. The heart of the 4C is a large, hand-laid carbon fiber monocoque passenger compartment. Alfa Romeo had the good sense to leave as much of the carbon fiber exposed as possible because the weave of the fiber is strikingly beautiful. It gives both a raw and yet completely refined and finished look at the same time. The black leather dash, red leather seats, and Bianco Madripola body panels all blend perfectly with it, creating a very Spartan but inviting interior. Small black carpets with 4C embroidered on them protect the bare carbon fiber floors from hard-soled shoes scuffing them. The carbon fiber isn't just a design element though. It provides fantastic weight reduction, rigidity, and strength to the platform. It's quite expensive, so it's impressive that Alfa Romeo chose to use it in this fashion on a street car. To the carbon fiber monocoque is bolted an aluminum front subframe that the front suspension bolts to, and an aluminum rear subframe that cradles the engine and transmission and provides a mounting point for the rear suspension. It's essentially designed and engineered like a race car or a supercar, which is exceptionally unusual and innovative for a street car that costs much less than 6 figures. Continuing the comparison, the front suspension is unequal length tubular steel A-arms and coilovers, just like a race car. The rear suspension is McPherson struts and a multi-link lower control arm. I pull the key, from my pocket and step across the wide sill. Drop my large American butt into the thinly padded but well-bolstered red leather bucket seat, then awkwardly drag my left leg and foot into the car after me. I sit low in the carbon fiber tub. The top of my leg is about even with the top of the tub's sill and my butt is inches from the pavement beneath me. I pull the light door shut until it clicks, pull my seatbelt across me and buckle it. The small, flat-bottomed steering wheel sits before me with an Alfa Romeo badge prominently displayed on it. I plant my foot on the brake, insert the key and twist it. The digital dash display lights up before the motor cranks behind me and fires. Once running, it makes a loud gurgling sound, almost like a Honda with a fart can muffler in a tunnel, but better. It could be because it's an Alfa Romeo, or maybe just because it's Italian, but there's the sound of history and racing tradition mixed into the sound. Or maybe it's all just in my imagination, but I love it regardless. The view out the windshield is dominated by the 2 front fenders, which helps the driver place the front wheels. That's about all you can see besides the road stretched out in front of you. Although the rear window isn't much larger than a mail slot, the view through the rear view mirror is sufficient to see traffic behind you. Adjust the side mirrors out past the sharp triangular side intakes and you'll have a pretty complete view of what's behind you. The view is limited but sufficient. Our car came equipped with a backup sensor system, which helps in parking lots. The center console to my right is capped in black molded plastic that provides 2 cup holders behind my elbow. The parking brake is the manual variety, attached to the center console as well. Further up the console is the switch for adjusting the side mirrors and Alfa's D&A switch. Above that, furthest away on the center console, is a small square of carbon fiber trim housing 4 buttons. Reaching forward, which isn't much of a reach in a car this small, I push the button labeled R for reverse. You can feel the Alfa TCT, twin clutch transmission, select the gear. I take my foot off the brake pedal and gently push on the accelerator, which requires a firm push to get moving. It resists slight pressures. The little Alfa begins backing up, and I turn the flat-bottomed steering wheel as I back out. There's no power steering in the car, so it requires a little muscle in parking lots and slow-speed situations. It's not difficult, it just isn't one finger spinable is all. Now I reach out and push the button labeled 1 for first gear, feel the TCT select the gear, then push AM to get manual mode instead of automatic mode. This activates the paddle shifters behind the steering wheel. Left is downshift, right is upshift. Then I reach for the D&A switch. D&A stands for Dynamic National All-Weather and controls the character of the car. Natural is the default setting and provides a sporting ride but defaults to all the computer controls overseeing the car's performance. Traction control, stability control, and any other electronic nanny keeps you from swapping ends due to a dumb mistake. It retards the engine and applies the brakes if you whip around a corner too fast, keeping the back end from stepping out and keeping it dog slow as you exit the corner. Selecting dynamic tells the electronic controls that I intend to have some fun and please stay out of the way unless I really do something stupid. It relaxes the computer controls and allows some slip in corners but never lets things get too out of hand. Select dynamic again and it engages Alfa Racing mode, which shuts off all the electronic aids except when braking hard. All-weather applies engine retardation and traction control when it senses any slip, which is what you choose if you got caught in a freak snowstorm. Not expecting any freak snowstorms in July, I selected dynamic or race most of the time. It allowed me to get a good feel for the car's balance and allowed me to play with it a bit. With that out of the way, I give it some throttle and head back down the winding road to M22 in Alberta. The race exhaust, which our car has, is essentially straight pipes muted by only the turbo, the catalytic converter, and a resonator. It's loud but not obnoxiously so. Okay, maybe a little. The engine roars to life sounding like a race car, then spits and pops at idle like one, like it would be happier going faster like it was designed and built to do. As we idle into Alberta, people hear us and look up from whatever they're doing. When they see the car, they're transfixed. The exhaust is an attention getter, that's for sure. It's not discreet at all. We get an easy break in traffic and turn north onto M22 again. The little direct injected 1.75 liters turbocharged 4-cylinder gets louder and the car leaps out onto the road, propelling it quickly to 65 miles per hour, from which we have to back off. The engine makes about 240 horsepower and 260 pounds-to-foot of torque, which can really propel the lightweight 2,400 pounds car with lightning fast immediacy. We cross the channel and motor about a mile to the town of Frankfurt. Frankfurt is still an industrial shipping port along Lake Michigan, but it's also a vacation town and it's very busy late on this summer Sunday morning. The farmers market is crowded along the channel and people are everywhere, on bikes, walking, pushing strollers, chasing children, and walking dogs. I see mouths drop and kids point as I go by. But I can't relish the moment because the unassisted steering is so sharp and immediate. I don't feel comfortable taking my eyes off the road to watch reactions like I normally do. Driving it demands your full attention. I motor through Frankfurt, and then north through Christlia and around Silver Lake until I come to an elaborately carved sign that reads "Welcome to Sleeping Bear Dunes National Lake Shore." The road, until now, has been scenic and beautiful, with bluffs and orchards and some good curves and hills. Now it's about to get better. I accelerate and the car leaps up the road, the engine note getting sweeter and smoother, the trees flashing past faster, the sound of the rushing wind intensifying. The steering feel is incredible. I can tell exactly what the front end is encountering, what the grip is like. Faster. Left paddle. The engine shrieks, the car leaps ahead even faster. There's a sharp curve to the right up ahead, the first curve of a great S. I back off the throttle and the engine note hangs in the air, then slowly falls, falling. I turn into the corner, the steering resisting my efforts but obeying my command, the chassis feeling nervous. I accelerate and the chassis suddenly feels more confident, more composed, and the car rockets through the first curve at a speed I've never taken it before in any car. Elation and excitement and adrenaline kick into my system, and I'm setting up for the second curve. No hesitation this time, just dive in fast and come out faster. The chassis feels amazingly confident, no nervousness at all. It's rewarding my courage, showing me that it's up to the task, and reassuring me that it's not the weak link here.